Hello. We sold the property and we wanted to make this video kind of telling you the reasons why and what we learned throughout that whole entire experience. Originally we bought the lot because it was cheap and it was a really good deal, and it was like in the heart of this town, and we were like, it would be a good like little home base that we can land at once in a while, and it would be a fantastic Airbnb.
This town is like really big on mountain biking, so a lot of people come here and rent Airbnbs, so we thought it would be somewhere where we could land if we wanted to just stay for a while, and then when we were on the road we could Airbnb it. Yeah,
and we wanted to do something really cool, right?
Yeah, so we were we had a couple ideas of some really cool like tiny house ideas that we wanted to do. We didn't think it would be a problem.
Yeah, basically we're like gonna do a geodesic dome or a container house.
Yeah,
was our basic plan, and we had all these hopes and dreams, and our eyes were all lit up, and everything was awesome. And then I walked into City Hall, and after I already purchased the land, and I was like, hey, blah blah blah, can I want to put a container home. Soon as I didn't even finish saying container home, soon as I said container, we don't allow those here. Those aren't allowed anywhere. And I was like, actually you're wrong. They're being put in Portland, they're being put in neighborhoods as housing developments like right now. I read it in a real estate magazine, so you're actually very wrong. Anyways, basically it was a no-go, right? And every time I went there to ask questions, like I couldn't get a direct answer. And then they sent me the codes, right? The building code. So the problem is the lot was in city limits, right? If it was outside of city limits, it would have been more lenient. In city limits, there's even more rules. And in a nutshell, 900 square foot minimum footprint.
Which is a pretty big house for that plot of land.
You're probably talking $100,000 just in materials. There's no utility, like it's in city limits, so there's no utilities on the lot. But
well, and then they said too, they were like, you have the option to be connected to utilities, but you can't have utilities until you already have a structure there, which didn't make sense because and then they were like, you can't start building until you have utilities. So like,
no, as soon as you bought a permit, you could put utilities in.
They were telling us all kinds of stuff.
They don't know what they're talking about. Right, so Jaylene and I never had intention of doing anything on that lot until we finished our projects down here, which we're still in the middle of those now.
But they're close to being done.
Yeah. And we were going to do something with the lot after all that, but it's like, anyways, we're going to keep going, and there's some things I've learned that I really want to share that might help a lot of y'all. So I was talking to, I think it was the city administrator, or whoever's in charge of the city, right? I was telling them, like, I can't get anything done. I don't know what I can do up here. I'm not sure I want to spend the money up there. Because it's a small, tiny lot, too. So it's not like we could have just put our bus on there. But it's like, our bus and our vehicles, that's it. There ain't even room for nothing else. So it's very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was in the city again, talking to them, and they were talking about how they were getting ready to pass some tiny home laws. And I was excited, right? Because I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can get something done. I can do something with it, make it valuable, make it worth our time, right? Whatever happened with the tiny home rules, they gave me an email and a guy to call. Emailed and called the guy trying to get the list of the rules, and that was probably 4 months ago. So still haven't even got an email back on what I can do up there. So it's like I can't work with this, right? And the idea behind that property as well was I wanted to learn how to pull utilities. I wanted to learn how to do a permit. I was going to use it as my own college, kind of like when I started this bus building business. I bought a bus, built it, and sold it, and learned throughout the process. The idea was the same thing up there. I wanted to build either an Airbnb or some kind of cool tiny home and sell it and just learn the process and then, you know, develop more little lots with cool tiny. That was the idea. But it was so difficult to do that I just couldn't get anything done. I couldn't get an answer. Nobody would tell me anything. I was like, I just don't understand. And honestly, I think a lot of that has to do with the town that we're in specifically, to be honest. Like, if I was anywhere else, maybe it would have been different. But up here, I can't get anything done. So, that's the reason we did sell it. So, I guess, I'm not sure we even talked about that.
No.
So, I listed it, and it sold, like, boom, 2 days. We're out of it, and I got my money back. I didn't make any money. You know what I mean?
At this point, we didn't necessarily intend to. Do you want to tell them
Go ahead.
Why?
Sure, yeah.
With what's going on with all this stuff?
Yeah.
So we're just out working on the buses, a normal day at the shop, and the city came, and they had these 2 ladies, and they were taking photos of everything, and our realtor, she was with them too, and she came up, said hi, and we found out that they are putting this building in this lot up for sale. So basically, as far as we know now, according to the landlord, they're going to come have it appraised, they're going to list it, and as soon as it sells, we have 30 days.
Yeah.
We don't know when it's going to sell, how fast it's going to sell, but property up here seems to sell pretty quickly, like commercial property.
Yeah.
So we could at any point have 30 days to get out, and we still have to finish our buses. Then we have to go through all of our stuff, and then we have to move all of our stuff. So we have so much stuff to do. So the reason why we didn't want to list that property for more, because we didn't want to sit on it. We wanted it just to get our money back, and then just be done with it, so we didn't have to worry about that if that moment comes and they're like, okay, you got 30 days and we're still sitting on that property because no one's bought it yet. So it sold for pretty cheap, but like you said, you got your money back. So
and I learned a lot, which I think is worth it. Like, I have bought and sold and learned a lot about tiny homes, and I want to share more about that later, but like, I learned a lot. So I'm not saying it was a bad move. Like, I learned things I would have never learned without doing that.
Well, and I think we also realized recently too, we don't want to stay in this town. I think that we want to find land elsewhere, and I think that we have an idea of exactly what we necessarily need right now, and especially with losing the shop, there's some certain things that we need, and that property up there, 1, it's in this town, we don't want to stay here, but 2, it didn't have anything on it. We couldn't necessarily put anything on it unless it was the house or our bus, which just didn't make sense for us.
Yeah. So I want to touch on the tiny home thing a little bit real quick, which is another reason I didn't know. So basically, in a nutshell, in Oregon, I don't know about other states, all these people have all these hopes and dreams of all these tiny homes and tiny houses, right? And buying a lot of land and putting it on there. And the problem is, a lot of these cities, permits, they won't allow it, right? Without a main structure. What I mean is, like, if you buy a house that has, or a normal piece of land that has a house, everything's there, it's called an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, right? Then you can hook it all up, it's all good, it's just very different, right? It's almost impossible to just buy a lot of land, put utilities on it, and throw a tiny home on it. Like, that's just not really the way it works in Oregon.
Yeah.
Which is what I was thinking I was going to do with that property. I was going to buy this lot, develop it into a tiny home lot, and then sell it or Airbnb it. Not having a main structure was my main problem, right? So it's like, anybody in Oregon, and maybe this applies to your state too, it's like, don't think you're just going to buy a lot and, you know, put utilities on there and slap a tiny home on wheels on there. Nah.
Yeah.
So most people who are doing these tiny home deals, they're off grid, where they're not pulling permits, right? Because the city's just not going to come hook up. And I don't understand why that's a thing, right? The whole point is to make living more affordable. More people can afford a $50,000 tiny home on wheels than people can afford a $400,000 house. But they want you paying that mortgage. They want you pay. So it's like this whole rigged real estate game that I'm learning the deeper I go. So we do have this bus. This is a full functioning house. We could drive it, put it on any lot we want to, right? The only issue is water, right? We have solar for energy, we've got propane and wood for heat, but how do we fill our water tank? So what I have learned is if you find a piece of property with a well, right? You could make a little off-grid solar system for the pump, and like now you can fill your water tank, and it's not connected to the city at all. Like you're not paying the city for the water. It's you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for all you tiny home folks out there who are considering, building a bus and traveling, or a tiny home on wheels or whatever, and you're going to be off-grid, I think personally, from what I have learned from this whole experience, is water, right? Buy a lot with a well, and then you could pull your off-grid house or onto the lot, and you can fill your water tanks, right? Composting toilets, you don't need septic, you don't need sewer. Solar, you don't need an extension cord, but water, you're not just gonna make water. I mean, you could catch it, I guess. Pretty sure that's illegal though.
Yeah, rainwater, it's illegal to catch it.
Yeah. So we wanted to touch on this, like why we sold that, what we were thinking when we bought it. We were stoked. I thought it would have been so rad to just build a deck, do a geodesic dome, get utilities on there, and it'd just be a cool, cheap little structure we can hang out in Airbnb when we're not on the road and make money. But it just didn't end up working out like that. If I had a main structure, I could have tossed up 7 geodesic domes.
That land just is not big enough for that.
Well, I'm just saying, but so it's like, these are all things that we learned, and there's not really a book on it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make this video to kind of share what we learned about property and tiny homes and things like that. Which brings us to the next chapter. So that lot's sold. We're trying to wrap up what we got going on at the shop, which is honestly quite a bit. We're in the middle of the minion build. We still got to do the peach.
Yeah, so lots happening.
Yeah, and we got to move out, which is going to be a lot of all the shop stuff, And then, like, once that happens, all my extra materials are gone, so there really isn't any more building, really, short of me just buying a shop somewhere. And I don't got cash like that. So, as far as what we're going to do now, we're not really sure.
Everything's kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
Which is exciting, but also really stressful.
We have the bus. We could put the Jeep on the back, and that's all we have to do.
Yeah.
Like we could drive off and call it right there, But one thing I have noticed is most people on the road end up paying a harvest host $500 a month to park on their land or whatever. So it's like, I personally don't like the idea of not having a home base. I'm not saying I have to be there, but a place where I could store extra cars or tools I don't want to take on the road, like just a place I know that if I just want to stop trying to find water at a hose, I could just go there. I like the idea of finding a lot with a well, right, where we could build some sheds and whatever, and live off, and maybe off grid, so we're not dealing with permits and all that drama. Something out of town, not like in the city. Mm-hmm. I'm not opposed to financing like a cabin in the woods. But the thing I don't like about that is I feel like it might trap me, because the whole point of this life is to live, I shouldn't say cheaply, but inexpensively, so that we can go
minimally.
We can go live our life, right? If I sign up for a mortgage somewhere, we have a huge bill that I've got to pay, which means I might have to work harder or have a shop or build or something, right? Keeping your bills low is what makes this sustainable, right? So like I said, we don't know where we're going. But we wanted to make this video to tell you why we sold the land, what we learned, and that we have no idea where we're going from here. So, if anybody's got a lot in Oregon with a well, I'm interested. or a cabin in the woods that no one knows about, I'm interested. Or, you know, I don't know, we might not do anything, so.
I guess we'll find out together.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to pipe in there?
Nah, I think we covered it.
So, yeah, that's why we sold the land. I was a landowner for a year. That was it.
Well, now you're a homeowner.
Alright, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. And this is just a little bonus video we wanted to put together. And we'll see you guys in another one. Peace.